Hello, hello to all of our change makers, and welcome to another amazing interview with another amazing change maker. Today, we get to go north of the border to Canada with our new friend, Sue Goodrich. Thanks for being with us, Sue.
Oh, well, I'm so delighted to be here, Cheyenne. It's been actually, we've had a lot of fun conversations already. So I don't know if
This is
anybody
true.
was listening in, but
Well, maybe on some wavelength or another.
absolutely.
But please tell everybody about what you do and what makes you so amazing.
Oh, what makes me amazing. Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
um, what do I do? I'm well, I'm many things. I'm calling myself the Dragon Whisperer if you've ever seen me on some other channels. And I'm a life coach, a transformational life and business coach, and I've changed my focus because really the one of the reasons that I started doing what I did was because in 2012 when the market changed, and I don't know if you've seen this, there's actually even a little fun little graphic that shows dynamic, a GIF that shows what happened, how people made friends, how they sold, right? How we, interacted with people. That
Mhm.
before it was always with, interactions like having conversations and meeting people through family, church, community, school.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until 2012 when it literally flipped to online. It was like almost 100% online. And so I had this other business where I was doing software training and consulting in the engineering world, and I loved what I did, and I knew that I had even stopped and asked the questions, am I really making a difference in this world? And I was. I mean, I was arming people with skills and knowledge that, like, out of the box they could be productive in the
Mhm.
workforce. So I worked for corporate, like I would go into different corporations or municipalities and teach them how to use the software, and government, as we just talked about. And but something kind of wasn't working. It stopped working for me because people, so here's what happened, was people weren't picking up their phones anymore.
Mm.
I That's how I did business. Like, in fact, I built this business inside another business,
Mhm.
cold calling.
Wow.
It was before the internet. But
Yeah. Yeah.
my dad taught me how to speak on the phone. He taught me
Mhm.
that when I was a teenager. So I knew how to be personable on the phone. And so that was a gift that I was given by my father.
Mhm.
And yeah, and so I was able to build this business inside another business and then started out on my own. But in 2012, everybody would they weren't picking up their phones, and so they were expecting us to do business by email.
Mm.
Well, I had this belief, and believe it or not, it's only just recently disappeared, but I had this belief that I couldn't write.
Ooh, interesting.
And so when somebody would send me an email, I would literally come out of my body. Like, I know that now. I didn't know that back then, but I would be absolutely terrified because I had this old story that I just didn't know how to write. I didn't know how to communicate. And so because I believed that, I
Mm.
couldn't, right? Whatever we believe, that's going to be the truth.
Yep.
So I and my business kind of would, and it would take me, I would be days to try and answer an email, like days. It would just take me right out of my body.
Mm.
And so I didn't really, promote my business very much because people weren't answering the phones. And and I kind of stopped. And then I had my children at the age of 53, and I'd shared this. I'd been single all those years, but I knew that I wanted to become a mom. So I I did IVF, and I ended up having twins at the age of 53 on my own. And about 18 months in, after having them, I lost all my care. Like, all of my nannies were gone, and even my neighbors, like, they seemed to think that I was managing okay on my own. but I wasn't, I wasn't. And, things kind of went really downhill. So I hired a coach and he got me working again. He was like, okay, do some research, talk about see how you can do some of this work. So I was able to get back on track. I started using LinkedIn to connect with people. And so I was like, oh, look at that. And I literally, so at 9 months after working with him, I had like the biggest month I'd ever had, only to burn myself out again.
Oh no.
And one of the reasons I left the corporate environment was because I'm not designed. I'm going to jump into human design in a minute,
Sure.
but I am not designed to be sitting at my desk 40 hours a day. I am meant to be doing whatever is lighting me up in the moment. Plus I would, because I remember one time sitting and I taught for 4 days. Like I was on like from 8:30 to 4:30 in the afternoon, like on full, teaching these engineers how to use the software on the entire time. I had a lot of energy. I was able to do that. But come Friday, I'd be sitting at my desk and I would find myself with my head on the table. And I'm like, this is really silly. What am I doing here when I really should be, getting rest or, just so that I can show up fully on Monday? So, that's kind of been my story all along, but I have to continually remind myself, right? I have to continually remind myself because the belief is, and so actually, so just to get back to the story of how did I end up wanting to become a coach from being a software trainer, was in 2012 I started taking some marketing training on learning how to market. But every time I showed up in these Zoom rooms and they were trying to teach us marketing, and I heard them as coaches. So I thought they were like coaching. They weren't really coaching the way that I know coaching. And even my coach couldn't really meet me at the level where I thought this could be. And I saw these women, it would just break my heart. They'd be in tears and you'd be talking about how they were all alone, like they were isolated. This is a huge piece, right? As entrepreneurs, right? Right? Living and working on our own, right? And not having anybody to feedback on. And that a whole piece of not making enough money, being in that place of scarcity, right? And then feeling shame, which keeps us stuck, right? That shame is like the lowest vibrational emotional frequency. It's like 20 megahertz, I think, or something like that, right? Where love is 500.
Right.
Joy, an abundant or authenticity, apparently, according to the Spain scale of emotion, is what the highest vibrating frequency that they've been able to measure.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, I've learned a lot of these pieces on, and what I became really aware of is it's the frequency that we carry within ourselves, which is what creates our world.
Yes.
It's what we think about. It's how we feel. It's our energetic state. It was really, truly how I called my boys into this world. I know it was. I know it was. And yeah. So this work I do has many layers to it. I mean, there's, I know a lot of I'm kind of a geek. I've been exploring neuroscience. I did my yoga teacher training when I was 62 after restoring my body because I couldn't get to my women's spiritual groups to, do that deep work. And then I realized when I was doing yoga, I was like, oh, I can access that from here. It's a body thing. Oh, look at that. So it was just, yeah. And I was like trying to connect the dots all along. But it was really watching these women in tears, really, that really led me to want to be able to become a coach, right? To make a difference in other people's lives. And what I could see is that these people who were coaching couldn't meet these women where they were. And I thought there has to be another way. And so the work that I've done with Claire Zammit, who was used to be called Feminine Power Transformational Life Coaching, right?
Mhm.
As women really process information differently.
Yeah.
That's what I see. I didn't really walk the road everybody else did. I tried to in my 20s, even in my early 30s, but I just didn't fit in that box. So I just had to be me. And
Mhm.
I've been fortunate that I didn't come from a family that said, "Why are you not married and why aren't you having children?" Like that wasn't at all. That was never put on me, though I know that's true of a lot of women, and especially people who've come up through some very strong religious backgrounds, right? That yeah. And so a lot of the women that I met through my 40s that I was experienced, doing medicine wheel work and a lot of Jungian stuff, a lot of them would be call themselves recovering Catholics because, yeah. Anyway, so yeah. So I really work with my sense is like what I see myself calling in are women who are really here to make an impact. Many of them are manifestors. So, as I've talked a little bit about human design, you and I were sharing about human design, and I've brought that into my work as one of the layers that I do. And it helps me see the patterns about how people are really designed. And I can see where they're not living aligned and working aligned with their design. And that helps me really quickly zoom in on those old stories and transform those, what I call triggers, right? Transform the triggers, the deeper level when we can get into the body to do that. And I take them through the portal, to see their future self. And so that's kind of fun. Yeah.
That that sounds like fun. Very cool. So you actually ended up finding a piece of technology that could kind of help shorten the process so that you could help more women, especially women, get into alignment with where their soul is calling them to. Is that a fair summary?
It sure is. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Wow. Well, I'm curious. I mean, do you have an example of somebody that you've been able to help? What kind of results were you able to get for them?
Oh, well, so I was just I'm actually in Eastern Ontario right now. I'm in Cornwall, Ontario, but I lived in Toronto for 45 years. And so um, this one woman that I was coaching, she's a friend of mine, but I had started about 18 months ago. She came to me and she said, she's in her late 70s. And she was like, I wanted, embrace my art. Like she'd been doing art, but she'd been kind of and I'm going to use the word closet because literally she used this word last week. She said it was like she was a closet artist. She'd done a lot of work with her art, but she wasn't sharing it with the world. She wasn't, doing any of that. She said, but I really want to have a, like do an art showing, like have a gallery. And I was
Nice.
like, okay. I took her through the portal. I literally did. And she came out of it and she's like when we were having this conversation, and she's like, oh my God, I could feel like I was actually already there. She could feel it. Now
Wow.
it took a lot longer than she initially had to, but there were a lot of things that she also had to deal with, like a couple of deaths and yeah, just some major illness. And anyway, she came through at the other end, and literally it was last week. Was it last week? Maybe it was a week and a half ago. Yeah, about a week and a half ago. I was in Toronto and I was there at her art showing, and these beautiful, beautiful pieces of art. You know,
Wow.
I have another artist that I did this with, and she was actually um, she was working as a financial advisor.
Mm.
And she came to me and she said, I really just, like she said, I just really want to make more money. And I'm like, well, it's never really about the money. But what do you want the money for? Right? If we
Right.
don't know what we want the money for, rarely does it come to us.
Mhm.
Right? When we start to bury our dreams, our world starts to shrink.
Mm.
Even our resources start to do that. anyways, so she shared that, anyways, it turned out that she was also an artist and had a master's in fine arts, but she was
Mm.
working as a financial advisor. And there was like this whole thing, oh, well, I'll never make money doing this. And I'm like, well, if this is really what you want to do. Anyway, so there were a bunch of other things that were she wanted to do, but I coached her for 6 months, and right at the very last week that we were in, she lives in rural Ontario, and she was in a huge art show in Toronto, and she called me and she said, "Oh my God, I feel like I made it to the Olympics." And I was like, "Whoa."
Wow.
I'm like, holy smoly. And that's my other friend who she's like, I just feel like I came out of the closet, like with her artwork. So yeah.
Wow.
And it's not just artists that I work with, like entrepreneurs who, you know, yeah. I had somebody who said, I took her through my work last year, and her sale, like I get people to rate their stuff, and she's like, I said, where are you with your sales? She goes, oh, I'm at a 0. I said, well, the scale goes from 1 to 10. No, I'm at a 0. I'm like, okay. So I was coaching her, and we did some really deep work, and I could see there was some deep relationship, trust issues that were going on. And I coached her through that. And then she shared with me, she said, so then right near the end of our coaching session, she said to me, she had just closed. She showed up and she goes, I just closed 2 big contracts. Like 2 big ones, not 1, but 2, right? And then she said to me, and she said, and you saved my marriage. Because
Mm.
the work that we do, yeah, that's powerful, isn't it?
It
Because the
is.
work that we do, especially when it's around relationship and how we relate to other people, because much of that business work, that's just our growth. I believe that's like our little, container for growing, right? We're just these
Mhm,
little
mhm.
flowers, and like this thing over here, right? That's like your business, and there you are sprouting out, right? So
Yep.
we're really meant to grow out of our business. And I know that when we close, I look for the biggest gap or the biggest roadblock. And what I do is then we work to close that. And what that does is it catalyzes all the other spaces as well. So that's why her marriage ended up being saved.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's powerful stuff when you can affect the income, the purpose, the dream, and the marriage. That's pretty phenomenal. See, I knew you were amazing.
It's
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm curious, do you have a big vision for the future somewhere? What do you see yourself doing 5 or 10 years from now?
well, in 5 or 10 years, my children in 10 years, they'll be out of college or university. And my fingers crossed that they will actually be on their own.
Yes,
And they're
yes.
only 15 right now. So, we've got a few more years before that
Mhm.
happens.
Yeah.
I see with my business, I see, I feel, I've been working with ChatGPT, which many of us have as part of our stuff. And I was talking about, if you put the right questions in, it'll give you the deeper work, right? So I put all my stuff in and getting reflections, and it keeps telling me I'm building an ecosystem. Like it feels much bigger, right? Like, because the business model, like with us as the foundation, right? There's this whole
Mhm.
piece on health, right? And there's whole pieces on, like I said, relationships, and then this human design. And as told you before, it's about knowing thyself is really important, and that I had downloaded the 8 P's to purpose. And then it flows up to the dream, which is our mission and our vision and our targets. I had forgotten to put the targets in. That's why things weren't moving as fast. And all of, I also, and then, our container, which is our office. Like we need to have a beautiful and comfortable space to work in, right? Something that's inviting, that's functional. And we need our offers. How many people have no idea what their offers are? Or if you're like me, a manifesting generator, you have so many offers that they get really messed up, and you're constantly creating. I'm constantly creating. And so I found a way to kind of get that kind of under control, in a way to kind of, feel into it as a moving, because it's moving all the time. And then that whole, how we're meant to market, how we're meant to sell, what we're meant to sell, right?
Mhm.
Right. And how, most importantly, how we're meant to receive, how we're meant to magnetize things to us. And so my other piece is all about being magnetic. Like, what is your mindset? What is your state? I call this thing, I'm building something called the Abundant Entrepreneur's Journey.
Ooh, I like that. Sounds good. Good stuff. And yes, I get it. You're a system builder. I think we can agree. We're a lot alike. And I've said our system is about health, prosperity, and peace. And I
Mhm.
think I've heard you describe the same thing. So we are the change makers, dear.
That's right. And we're supposed to have fun. We're supposed to have flow, and we're supposed to make a whole lot of dough, right?
Oh,
We
there
need,
you go. Fun
there you go.
flow and a whole lot of dough.
Yeah.
That's
And you
it.
need to know how to flow your dough. Like, you need to know what to flow it to. Anyways, yeah. So that's
That,
the ecosystem I'm building. And there, and the collaboration piece you and I talked a little bit about, right? I'm also going to be doing kind of a matchmaking thing, because human design has this really cool way of matching people up. And I mean, it could be soulmate stuff, though I don't believe we ever truly have soulmates, because nobody can fill in one person can fill in all those blanks. Um, but for collaborations, or for finding people that really, you know, see you, hear you, and understand you, because not everybody's going to get us.
no, definitely not. Definitely not. And that kind of reminds me too, part of what I've been working on recently is again trying to bring together these potential collaboration teams. Just a week ago, I had a Zoom event where I brought together, because I was tripping over them everywhere I went. I was finding guys who wanted to be coaching, mentoring, and helping to heal other guys, and I'm like, wow, I have never run into this before. So I had to bring them all together and introduce them to each other.
Wow. Yeah.
We're
Because
actually,
yeah. Well,
yeah,
then it's really great that we are starting to see that happen, right? I mean,
yeah.
women have been doing this work for a very long time. Men,
Mm-hmm.
not so much, right? Yeah.
It's true. It's true. And, I don't know as much about statistics in Canada, but I know that last year, when my husband and I were in North Carolina for the summer, we put together a whole event on suicide prevention. Because, first of all, we found out that suicide was the second leading cause of death of 10 to 18-year-olds across the country. That
10
is
to 18?
10 to 18, and 70 to 80% of them were young men. So we've gotten to this place where men, at least in the US, just don't even know what their place in society is supposed to be anymore. And a lot of them, you look at the craziness that you can run into online, and violent video games and cyberbullying and all these things, and it's causing a huge loss of our young people.
Hmm.
So, anytime we can find a group of guys who want to help lift up the guys, help them find new places that they fit into society, and to help these younger ones coming up, let's save lives. I mean, that's the kind of collaborations that I think we need to pursue more of, because
Hmm.
there are some really big trends going on and nobody's talking about them.
Hmm. Wow. Wow.
So,
Wow. Yeah.
anyways, food for thought, right?
Mhm. Well, I did a lot of this work for women, because that's how I was trained, but I've worked with men for decades, and I love them. And yeah, they really some of them really need guidance for sure.
They do. They do. Absolutely. So, we have plenty of opportunity to go out here and make a difference. So that's why I'm so passionate about get off your super puzzle piece and get busy being the miracle we're looking for. I'm glad
Yeah.
that you are because I definitely sense that you got some great things going on there. And tell people, how can they find you? How can they connect with you? Anything you would like to share with them as some closing thoughts?
Well, I have, you can always reach me at Sue at transformwithsue.com. But right now I have a dragon quiz that has just been launched, and it will bring you into an option to sign up for a prosperity code light version. Well, I even do the full version as well, and a soul aligned session. So you can find out how you're meant to sell, how you're meant to receive, how you're meant to market, and what you're meant to market.
Oh,
So,
wow. That's
yeah,
powerful.
I it just downloaded, well, somebody requested, and I was like, oh, I wonder, can I do this? And I'm like, oh, look at that. Yes, I can. And then I was like, I think I better do that for myself. And I discovered a few things about myself.
Wow. Wow. I love it. Woo.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, definitely underneath this video in both Facebook and on YouTube, I want to see you putting that information in the comments, my dear, and letting people know how and where and why to get a hold of you because you've obviously got the ability to. Again, I love talking about shortening the suffering for people. I mean, so many people have been suffering for so long and so hard, so much trauma in the world, and anybody who can help to shorten that time of suffering, help to shine the light on the best possible path and help them get there more quickly. I'm grateful to know that you are part of the team that's out here doing that for folks.
Beautiful. So I actually, me and my systems, right? Like, I'm a systems person. So by the time most people will see this, they'll be able to download the Dragon quiz or access the Dragon quiz by keying in like text it,
Mhm.
1-844-504-1500, and just send the word dragons, and I'll send you the link to the Dragon quiz, and that'll be
Oh,
a really
wow.
great little entry point. It's fun. It
Wow.
only takes like 30 seconds, and it's kind
Really?
of shadow work. It's like to find out which is the dragon that's blocking the power in your business. So
Ooh, boy, I might have to go do that too, just because you never know. Lord knows I've overcome a few of them, but I probably still got some lurking back here.
well, I actually feel that what happens is that as we start to expand, right, we
Mhm.
start to grow, they start to show up. And so when
Yeah.
we can recognize them immediately, then we could go, oh, there you are, scarcity dragon. What are you doing? Or imposter dragon, you know,
Ah.
what are you doing? I see you. Okay. What are you blocking me from? Can you move out of the way, please? And I don't teach you to slay your dragons. I teach you to ride them.
Ooh, okay. Figure out the gift and write it for all it's worth, right?
Yep, you got it.
I love it. That is so cool.
Oh,
Well, Sue, it has been an honor and a pleasure to have you with us here today. And yeah, let's go slay some dragons or ride the dragons or whatever it is we need to do. Get more people down the path of health, wealth, and peace.
there we go. Thank you so much, Cheyenne. It's been such a pleasure. It's been
Thank
fun.
you. Thank you. Take care. And we thank all our change makers for tuning in. We'll see you in the next interview. And make sure you check out the things that Sue has for you to experience. Take care, everybody.